I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and welcome to the 17th episode of Carcassonne Viewer Games Analysis, where we take an in-depth strategy dive in the game suggestions that y'all sent me, that y'all played. As usual, today we'll be looking at 3 games, and the first one was sent to us by PanPan712. And our antagonist is going to be some guy with a screen name Alexey LV, who's playing the yellow meeples, very dubious color. But that's going to be the antagonist. Our protagonist here is the Hong Kong player with the red meeples. That's right, by the way. So it was always an option to send one of the games that we played. That was a few weeks earlier. So here yellow starts and yellow's taking 4 points, but it doesn't matter necessarily who that is. Let's just kind of forget that who the antagonist is. So the most important thing is like what red can do in this game. And here we get to start a city. Yeah, it's just a bit unfortunate that red kind of needs to leave all these hanging roads back, but there's no really other way around this, because the alternative is giving up the city, and giving up the city is not any better. It's a little bit worse. So yellow here, of course, takes the 6-point road and directly kind of covers up all of it. The downside is leaving the city piece, but then again, the 6-point road is worth way more. So you here start a new road. That's actually very smart. I really like this move, because I think many players would have gone over here and started a road like this. But what you've done here is that you've started a road indirectly, and you started a road, because later you're going to still take this road end with a curve. And you've done that in such a way that does not create an attacking platform against your city. And also you're creating an opportunity to go over here and to prevent yellow from building up this road. So it's a very nice find here. Yeah, yellow decides to start a new city, and here you decide to take the road points. Kind of helping out yellow a little bit, but also helping out yourself at the same time. So that's all lovely. Yellow goes over here, has a bit of an advantage on the scoreboard, and now you take a straight line. You should be debating between 2 moves. One is this move I prefer, simply starting a new road, creating an attacking platform against this city. And there's this move which sort of starts a bit of a blocking attack against this city, and also a bit of a blocking attack against this potential city which could be taken by yellow. So these are really the only 2 moves that have value. You went for this one, which I mean makes sense, completely okay. The other one I think was slightly preferable, simply because it has the same idea of creating an attacking platform, but you also get 2 points in the process, and 2 points are very nice. And another nice thing about having multiple roads at the start of the game, and I'm only referring to the very start, is that you control all the road ends in the game. Because, for example, there's some scenarios how I can get a city cap, and then I can get maybe like a quadruple crossroads, or a triple city with a road, or something like this. And then I get to take 2 points and start obstructing your city a little bit. But if you are the one who takes the road, then if I take a road end, there's no productive way for me to put this on the board, for yellow to put this on the board, sorry. Without giving points to red. So I really like to control space at the start of the game. But still, this move kind of completely okay as the second best option. Yellow, of course, starts a new city. Now here, a bit of a tricky situation, because, well, I mean, you want to finish your city on one hand, but also you want to use this tile effectively to go over here. And also, I guess, you want to do the same thing over here, starting a new city. But also you want to go over here and start a blocking attack against yellow city. But also you want to go over here and attack yellow city here before yellow covers up successfully. it's kind of hard to say which one's the priority. So it takes a bit of experience, maybe some intuition. I would say that this would be either my top or my second best move because this city is like quite dangerous. Um, Ideally, you want to attack this with a different tile, like a triangle or a triple city, and it would be maybe very nice to use this tile over here, perhaps, or over here. Yeah, maybe I would make this move and then attack this later. But then again, like for example, if there were a shield, if the city was worth a little bit more, then attacking with this city would become top priority. So it's quite hard to say, but as long as you're making as long as you're making one of these five moves, you're doing good. I think this it's an okay move for sure. Trying to start the blocking attack, maybe yeah, actually, the advantages of this blocking attack is it also protects your city directly because now yellow cannot go over here and take these 2 points because yellow would be creating a blocking platform against themselves. So that's certainly something that's advantageous. I'm just gonna look for my Carcassonne reviewer. Yeah, because we're gonna probably need to do some tile counting at the start. So, by the way, whoever's in the chat, do like let me know how the sound is and everything. I'm very paranoid about these sort of things. If everything's okay with the stream quality-wise, yellow starts a monastery and red finishes the city, which may be a bit sheepish actually. I think it's an okay move, but that's what it is, just okay. I think there are a couple of stronger moves. So one of the stronger moves that I had in mind was maybe taking 2 points over here and then pre-building like a triangle city, pre-building a 6-point city, and then also creating the threat of blocking this yellow city yourself. And because the whole point of blocking like this is to create the permanent threat of blocking, because there's still 3 tiles that go over here, so sooner or later yellow is very likely to draw them. Well, yellow happens to draw them right now, so it's not what it would have changed the outcome, but I think this was still a little bit too conservative. I think the more aggressive move of scoring 2 points was just a little bit stronger. And you can always finish the city later. Like, even if yellow sticks in a road into it, okay, you're just going to get like another starting tile or another one of those. Like, there were still plenty of those in the deck, and complete blocks are unlikely. Okay, so now you connect to yellow city, which makes sense, and yellow starts kind of breaking apart your road and sort of have this monastery control of your road, where potentially maybe you're going to be stuck with this 1 point, and yellow going to be stuck with like 7 points. If you want to ask what you can do about this, the short answer is nothing. At least not anything that would be worthwhile. It's not an ideal situation to be in, but you'll probably just need to live with it. Also, I mean, maybe like if I were to get a curve at some point, I would go over here, and then if I were to get a crossroads, then I would, I guess, go over here and get my meeple back. But we're not getting any of those tiles, so not that much we can do. Yellow starts a new city as reds. Yeah. So this, I think, is the first real mistake of the game. I would say, like if you wanted to achieve master level, I would just say never make moves like these, because the problem with this move is that it does nothing. It's a use of a 2-point tile which you just fling in the air, only to create a platform for attacking this city. Even if you are successfully like meeple, I don't know, like you take a Dorito or something with a road and you meeple this, well, even then yellow's gonna have a sufficient number of tiles that allow him to get a meeple back. And also another thing, I mean, this move is okay actually, if it has a meeple, because if you think about this, what you're threatening is to put a tile over here. But if you're going to put a tile over here, then if you want to put a tile over here anyway, because you know you will be meepling this city, so why not meeple the city now? I mean, leaving it right now, it's not so damaging if you happen to draw the first city tile. Like, I don't know, you draw one of these. But then if yellow happens to draw the city cap and then another city, you're just leaving some empty stuff for yellow. Actually, you're leaving yellow also decent options. For example, if yellow were to draw a Dorito, yellow can go over here and then kind of continue this city indirectly with a couple of Doritos. So maybe your concern was that you didn't want to yellow to finish the city cap and have the square slightly obstructed. But since the square is obstructed only to one side, it's completely safe to have your meeple here. So having a meeple here just protects you from disaster scenarios where yellow gets to take advantage of these city pieces. So that was the idea. Another potential move was, I guess, continuing the city, but that would not have been a good move, because then this city would actually be quite vulnerable given the fact that two of these three tiles, the triple crossroads with the city cap, they have already gone out, so and that's not necessarily a good move. I think what you need to do, you correctly decided that you need to like wait for a city cap or for giraffes next to continue this city, and then use Doritos somewhere else. Yeah, so red, yellow does this. You take the roads. Yeah, and then yeah, you see, so it all ends up working okay for you in the end, but you could have just avoided the risk by placing this meeple here in the first place. So in this game, it ends up not mattering. Yeah, so yellow connects here. Yeah, again, like the moves like these, it's not bad, but it's just the problem is that they don't do anything. Because you know what can happen? Yellow can easily draw a city cap and just meeple the city and collect an 8-point city easily. I know you're maybe creating a blocking attack over here, but be mindful that blocking this monastery is maybe not as valuable, because this square is already semi-blocked together with this guy. Well, I mean, actually, blocking this for 50-50 could be a decent idea. Let's say if you get a cow tile or something, or any big city tile, and then you force you force yellow to have a tile like this, the city cap with a crossroads. And then your idea is that you could draw this tile over here, free up your meeple, and then leave my monastery meeple stranded. In that sense, it could work. Actually, I think it's an okay move, but I mean, what I would prefer is just to avoid the risk of leaving this stuff empty, and I would simply go over here and meeple a new city. And actually, if you go over here and meeple a new city, it's pretty safe, because if yellow were to go over here and attack this square, then yellow would be creating an attacking platform against his own monastery. So I think starting a new city was better. Just generally, you don't want to be spending moves in the early to early mid stages of the game, unless the tile runout is very unusual. You don't really want to be spending on moves which just creates a blocking threat, because it's typically is not as fruitful in the long run, as sometimes when you do complete the block successfully, your opponent has more than enough points to win the game anyway. So you see, this is what happened. Kind of yellow does get the city. You manage to successfully attack the city, but imagine if it had a road tile and suddenly yellow draws this, then now what's he gonna do? So yeah, there's always that problem. Yellow starts a new city, and that's a very interesting move here by red. Kind of pre-building a 4-point city next to the yellow's monastery, and maybe there are some scenarios how yellow can draw, like there's a like 12% chance of this meeple getting blocked or something, because if yellow draws this tile over here that fits into the square, and then no, so if red draws the tile that fits over here, and then yellow doesn't draw any of these two crossroads, then yellow will be stranded with the monastery. And I guess it's something that can happen once in a while. Maybe I might have preferred doing the same, but with the city pointed outwards and meepling this city. There are some disadvantages to this move. Yeah, I mean, there's disadvantages to every move, but let's try just weigh out the other option. So if you go over here and meeple the new city, the idea is that now the chances for a successful block are actually better, because then the same type of crossroads would be needing in both tiles. And imagine a situation where you're the first one to get to draw the T-shaped crossroads. Then you put the T-shaped crossroads here, and then you get your meeple back. And then you have at least a temporary meeple advantage, because yellow will need to wait a while before yellow gets the second crossroads. And yellow might not get the second crossroads at all. Like 25% of the time, you get to swindle. You get to have your road point and your meeple back, and yellow will be stranded with a monastery. But in the scenario where yellow draws this crossroads first, you're actually not damaged at all. Okay, yellow's going to go over here and take these 2 points. Because, well, obviously yellow has to do that because yellow knows that you could be drawing the second crossroads and you could be freeing this meeple. So yellow needs to pre-complete this square so that when you complete your road, yellow's monastery is also completed. But what happens then? If yellow is the first one to go over here and score these 2 points, and if you draw the other crossroads, then you are going to score not 2 but 4 points for this extra road, and you're actually going to get 8 road points out of this situation. So with this configuration, we're leaving 2 holes which need the same tile. You come out on top in 75% of scenarios. So you so let's say we have the first crossroads. Let me just draw this. We have the first crossroads and the second crossroads. These are now here are the possible draws. So red gets both crossroads, yellow gets both crossroads, and yeah, then red gets the first crossroad, yellow gets the second, yellow gets the first crossroads, red gets the second. So in the first situation, the benefit is obvious because you get this road and you get a meeple back, and your opponent gets this meeple trapped, so that's lovely. In the second scenario, I mean, obviously yellow benefits, but not as much. I mean, yellow, of course, is going to go over here and take these road points and these extra 4 points for this road, and it's going to be a good outcome for yellow, but yellow is going to score a few more points, but he's not going to score substantially more points than he otherwise would have with these crossroads, because we remember that the value of a crossroads is at least 2 points, because yellow, I mean, is going to score 2 points somewhere on the board. So in fact, in this scenario, yellow's going to be only getting like these 2 points extra from that scenario, because yellow's going to go first over here, and then yellow was going to go over here to score 4 points. But meeple-wise, the situation is the same. So you get a huge benefit here. You get like a mild disadvantage in this scenario. Then in the second scenario, where you draw the first crossroads and yellow gets the second, you are getting a temporary meeple advantage out of this, because you're the first one who gets to free up your guy. And in the other situation, where yellow gets his crossroads first, yellow of course puts it over here, gets the 2 points, and then you get to score the extra points for the road. So you actually, interestingly, that from the run out where you get just one of the crossroads, if it's the first just the second crossroads, you benefit just as much as yellow getting 2 crossroads. So it's just a very it's a situation where really you come out on top most of the time. Now the disadvantages of my suggested move is of course being tangled this guy plus this guy, because of course you want to finish the city on the city cap eventually, and but if you do, you will be creating a blocking platform. I would say this is probably worth it, because if this square gets blocked, then yellow's meeples is just as blocked as the red meeple, but in some scenario it doesn't get blocked. In some scenarios you might draw one of the 3 Dorito tiles with the road remaining. Why is this 3? 4. No. 3, yeah. 1 of the 3 Dorito tiles with the road remaining before yellow, and then you get to free up this 8-point city. So there's still kind of extra value of the possibility of drawing this early. But yeah, having this city cap sticking out is a bit of a disadvantage. But I still think it's worth doing that. Well, anyway, yellow can't really use the monastery because of lack of meeples. Yeah, yellow's trying to block, and now of course you very rightfully so defend and at the same time start blocking yellow, so it's a very good position for you. The only exception is that yellow has a bunch of points. You now continue building your city as you should. Yellow manages to swoop in just in time, and now you very wisely defend your city. No point in meepling that road just yet, because this road is not that valuable. Yellow just keeps dumping monasteries, and you finish your city. So now you're in excellent position. You are ahead on the scoreboard, you're ahead in meeples, and this game should be a lot of suffering for yellow. Yellow starts a new city, setting up a potential for a splitter, but also making their city a bit vulnerable. So you should immediately try and block it. Yeah, that is a great idea. And now you have, yeah, that's also another great idea, that you actually try and block yellow's road over here. So yellow creates passive defense. You just keep blocking and blocking and blocking, and you get the monastery for 9 more points on the scoreboard. Yeah, so like overall, I really like your middle game moves. I think they all make sense, and that one as well, because you can afford not to spend a meeple on the shielded tile, given that yellow has no meeples in hand. Yellow keeps defending. This is a very smart move. Yeah, that farmer though, I am not that sure about that farmer. Normally, good idea, but you are at a 2-0 meeple advantage. And what you can do, you could just simply meeple the same farm but later. Because normally, the normal reasons why meeple farms is so that your opponent does not meeple them before you do so. There's no risk of that happening. I mean, there's, I guess, a slight risk. For example, yellow could finish his cities, but again, like, yellow's not going to meeple the farm with his last meeple. So what you can do, you can just keep your meeple for now and enjoy a greater meeple advantage, and only when there is a real threat of yellow finishing a feature on the board, then you can meeple the field. Because at the moment, you can really get a lot of extra value of having 2 meeples as opposed to 1. Like, if you had 3 meeples, then I would say go ahead and meeple the farm. But if you have only 2 meeples, then typically how it works, you can use 1 meeple for cities and the other meeple for roads. And you want, of course, 1 meeple for quick points and another meeple for building like 8-point cities, or 4-point roads, or stuff like this, which requires an investment of a meeple for just a couple of moves. So I think that this farmer was unnecessary. Even though the positioning of the farmer is good, just make the same move but put the farmer later. Yeah, yellow gets a monastery point just as you were about to go over here. And now it's a question, should you even go over here? And the answer is probably no. Because I guess you could score 4 points for the city and that would be nice, but I think the idea of leaving yellow without a meeple for a long time, this is how you could really hurt them. Because yellow's meeple over here is trapped because you drew the last one that goes to yellow's road. Well, this one's not coming back anytime soon, because I think there are actually no Doritos with the road remaining. Yeah, so there's really not many tiles that go over here. This city, well, it has some vulnerability, and I guess there's a chance for a splitter over here, but yellow like really is in dire straits and you want to keep up the pressure. And I believe that you recognize that, and this is an excellent move, because you can afford to pre-build stuff whilst well, I mean, now that we know that yellow just finished their city, it now looks like a dangerous move because you drew the monastery. But still, I think the move was good because you're pre-building two things at the same time. You're preparing to have an 8-point city, and you're preparing to have a 5-point road with the cow tile. So your approach is right, that you can just pre-build a lot of stuff whilst your opponent is not looking. Hi, Ian Middleton. Yeah, so you can just pre-build stuff because your opponent can't meeple it. But imagine if this farmer weren't over here, having this extra meeple for safety would have been an even better position to be in. But let's see what happens. Yeah, okay, so I think this is really your only and biggest mistake of the game. I honestly, like, you played so well until this point, and I think this move just loses the game, which should have been yours. It seems to me that maybe you have forgotten that it was your last meeple. Do let me know if you're in the chat if that was the case. But it looks like maybe you thought you had two meeples and turns out you had only one. Because you're putting your meeple with basically zero chance to get a meeple out, while there's also loads of value lying around on the board. Let's start with this 8-point city. Well, you have to keep a meeple around for the sake of getting this 8-point city. This 8-point city is just as valuable as a 9-point monastery, except that the 9-point monastery is just a dream. It's actually not that easy to finish that, and even if you finish that, it takes 4 moves, and by the time you draw the 4 tiles that are required for you to complete the monastery, you will get those 9 points, but in all likelihood you would have left more value lying around on the board than those 9 points. So the thing with placing the last meeple, one of the main concerns is, like, what am I placing the last meeple for? And will I be able to score less or fewer points with the meeple that I just placed compared to what I can do if I keep the meeple? So yellow here cannot believe their luck, takes 8 points, and suddenly they're ahead of the scoreboard, and suddenly yellow has chances in this game. Because, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, of course you're going to build your monastery. Yellow is just going to try to obstruct it a little bit. This one, again, it's kind of very hard to recommend something in a position where, well, things are very, very difficult for you. But I'm not sure about this move over here, because it makes you subject to a 1-block move. So there are 3 tiles that red can place, that yellow can place over here, that make it so that nothing fits into this square because there are no daggers available anymore. But then also, like, it's hard, but then how do you build up this monastery? Yeah, it's a very good question. Now, I guess this one's okay because you still might draw something like this and this maybe, but still, it's like such a hard situation. Then you, okay, this one has to be another mistake, because, like, it was very, very difficult to finish the monastery, and yet you just drew a tile that would allow you to finish this. Like you could have bailed out, you could have gone over here, and then there would have been still 2 tiles in the deck that allow you to finish this monastery. Because now, I mean, you're dropping this here for no reason. I mean, I can see the reason. Maybe you want to get this, and then you want to, like, score points for your field. And then you could finish this with, like, a straight line plus a triangle in theory, but, you know, going over here and having 2 tiles in your difficult position that allow you to have a meeple back, I think this is an opportunity that you absolutely had to jump on. And now we can see that, well, actually yellow doesn't bother blocking. I believe that yellow should go and block here. Instead they take some quick points. This could be actually something about the point situation, so let's have a look. I mean, yellow's ahead 8, 11, this cancels out. Monasteries almost cancelled out. Yellow's ahead 12. 3-point road versus a 5-point road. Yellow's ahead 14. And you have a field with 9 points. So Yellow's ahead 5 points in a meeple. Yeah, this is kind of very close to insurmountable. So Yellow actually should have gone over here and just blocked this monastery and be done with it. Well, Yellow gets quick points. And you also get quick points, but this also blocks your own monastery. So at this point, I believe that the game is just not winnable. Yeah, because again, 12-point field, that's wonderful. That puts it -1. Monasteries cancels out. And Yellow has the longer road over here. And that's it, like Yellow's already winning. So I don't think there's really nothing much that it can do. And look at this, you drew that tile, and all that you need to do is put this tile over here, and you would have had just many more points and a meeple back and actually a real fighting chance in this game. So yeah, Yellow just keeps taking those quick points, and you're probably going to connect the cities now. Yeah, you do develop your field, which is a very nice find. It's a very nice find. Adding this city to your field, it just appears to be not enough. Yeah, so as you see, lots of quick point tiles were still in the deck, and it's just something that you weren't able to take advantage from this monastery. So we're gonna see what the score difference is, but I think it's something that's like makes the game. Well, I think the game was decided or close to being decided when you place your monastery. Maybe like with this, there was a chance trying to envision how exactly the monastery would be finished. So, if we do a recap of this game, I think you played the opening really well. There may be a couple of moves that you could have gone a little bit more aggressive, or like placed a meeple early on that triangle, and maybe use this tile for something more than just blocking. Like there were a couple of small things, but I think overall they ended up being non-consequential, and like you played the opening really well. The middle game, I think you realized your advantage well enough. You utilized the fact that your opponent had no meeples and started pre-building stuff on the board. I think the main issue is that when you have an advantage, sometimes it's not enough to press a little bit. Like you need to press harder and harder and harder. If you try to win like +40, then you end up winning with maybe like +10 or 12 or +15. I've often made the mistake myself of just trying to be a bit more cautious and go for a more secure but a lesser advantage in points, and then my opponent just ends up catching up somehow by drawing some quick point tiles and stuff like this. So first, this farmer again turned out to be a decent farmer, but it's just unnecessary based on the fact that Yellow had no meeples. And of course, well, this monastery, I presume you must have like thought that you had a spare meeple or something. Then you meepled this, and then just putting yourself in such a meeple disadvantages was of course super hard. When you do meeple monasteries, let's say like after the fact, okay, you realize that you made the mistake, there was still a way to climb out of that. If you just envision possible ways, what are the tile combinations that I can put over here and finish my monastery? I mean, ideally, like at a very high level, you need to pretty much go through all possibilities and see like what kind of stuff do you have. And also the thing with like having 3 tiles remaining to complete the monastery, the tricky part is, let's say you draw a tile that goes into your monastery like a curve. Then to decide where to put that and if to put that next to your monastery and how to turn that, you kind of need to imagine this. So you put a curve, let's say here, and then you need to imagine what are the other possible 2 tile combinations that can go here. Or if I turn the curve like this, what are the possible 2 tile combinations that go here? And then you will need to pick up the option which has the best number of possible 2 tile combinations. So this is how monastery builds up works at the highest level. And this is, by the way, why some like more beginner to expert level players sometimes perceive that their opponent is getting lucky, because they, get just the tiles that they need. But it's not that. It's because the person who's building up the monastery is just creating opportunities, building monasteries in such a way which makes it more likely to be completed. So certainly stuff like this require a lot of thought. But let's say if you don't have the time to go through all the possible combinations that could go into the monastery, then try to envision at least something. Try to envision at least one path, how you could finish the monastery, let's say a sequence of 3 or 4 tiles, very particular tiles, and see if that sequence just exists at all in the deck. So just choose an option which allows you for at least one route to finish the monastery. And then if you don't have enough time to count through all the tiles, well, at least in all likelihood, there's probably more than one combination of possible tiles to finish your monastery than you initially thought. So just gotta take a bit more care in the monastery builds up. Actually try to imagine which exactly tiles go here to complete that, even if you can't go through all the options. Yeah, and after that, playing without a meeple can be rough, so it's as simple as this. So yeah, hopefully that was somewhat instructive. I think overall you played really, really well just up until to a certain point in the game, but that's sometimes how Carcassonne is, that one mistake can just cost everything and negate all the good stuff. Well, anyway, so thanks so much for sharing this game. We will be moving on to the next one shortly. I just need to refill my supply of hot beverages, and I'll be back in under 2 minutes. Alrighty. So, the next game was sent to us by Kelvin Gabriel from Brazil, and it's an arena game against the Chilean expert Tito RC. And we're gonna jump right into it. Let me just... Oh, by the way, interesting. Note how in the previous game, we barely needed the tile counter expansion. Because many decisions in that game were really not dependent on the number of tiles available. Okay. And already as red, so we're playing the red meeples against our antagonist who plays the black meeples. We have many options here. We can fight for this road, which is not worth doing. We can build up our monastery here, build up our monastery here. The best move, I think, is going over here and actually meepling this, maybe meepling this, well, either leaving it alone or meepling this road, one of the two options. I tend to prefer meeple things. And the idea of this move, it's like to prepare a monastery spot and also to obstruct the city. So it seems like a good idea. Yeah, and this is what you do. Well done. It's actually not an easy spot for some players, because many are sort of afraid of getting the square too vulnerable, and well, the truth is, it's actually the square is kind of vulnerable. So if your opponent has like a cow tile now, if they go here, it will kind of hurt, but it's just a risk that you have to accept because of the upside. The upside is just too much. Yeah, now it's an interesting position because you get, well, actually you get pretty much, it looks like an awkward tile, but it's also one of the best tiles that you could get, because this is the horse without the shield is what you want to put over here, because you pre-finish your road, and then you do so expanding your opponent's city, so allowing more time to your connect. But in case your opponent draws 2 city caps and completes the city before you manage to connect, you cut the damage because you add to them the shieldless horse, not a shielded horse, so it hurts you 2 points less. I mean, ideally, of course, you want to draw this tile after this road's covered up on the other end, but it is what it is. Yeah. Tito's continuing their road, and you continue your road, and they build up, and you probably should now... Well, yeah, you probably should now connect. It's unfortunate that you have to spend a shielded Dorito, such a good tile, but you kind of have to, because if your opponent gets a starting tile, for example, and if this guy is not here, then you're in big trouble. So for very precise moves on your part. Yeah, they're trying to block you. I actually wouldn't be so much concerned about that, because the main purpose of this guy is just to prevent this city from being finished. The invasion it's nice, but it's secondary. You get to continue your road and build up your monastery, and they start a new city, and then you defend the connection. Yeah, it's all good. There's actually another crazy move possible. So let's say if you go over here with a meeple, and then if this square gets blocked, you try to connect like everything with 3 Doritos and have a ruin for yourself. Probably not quite worth it. Oh. Okay. Yeah, this move over here by your opponent, I don't think it's actually that... Well, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Huh. Maybe on some level I kind of like it, because this square is super protected. It's actually not possible to block at all. And they're gonna reconnect over here, and they're gonna have this ruin for themselves. I guess the only problem is that you're gonna have an invasion space here for yourself. So they are spending a good tile on something that's unlikely to be a completed city. However, I really like the threat. It's just not necessarily my style of play, but I really like that on that part, and it's not that easy for you to deal with. What could you do? Well, I guess you could go over here for starters and maybe like meeple here and obstruct their city here, which is something, a move that I like. And now let's just ignore the threat, go over here, meeple the city, and build up your monastery. But I just want to see what you do. Okay, you do this, which I think is... I'm so surprised this is like one of the... Like, it's... Okay, this is a gigantic mistake. The reason why it's a big mistake is because you're helping to build the city which belongs to your opponent. They were like, just do anything else not about the city. So normally, if you're in a situation where like you have a city piece, a small city piece, which is attacking your opponent's the bigger city, and this is medium, and your opponent has a small city piece which is attacking your middle city. I know that your ideal scenario is that you want to connect your opponent's big city and you want to leave the small guy out of it, but it is a dream scenario. In order to accomplish for that, you need to patiently wait for the right tiles. Wait until the opponent like runs out of tiles to connect the small city to your medium city. Or maybe you can block this connection first, and only then it is safe to connect to the big city. Because at the moment what's happening is that you're just helping your opponent. So for example, Tito can now just they have a fantastic move. They can go over here and they can like pre-build a gigantic road which goes into their city, and they also get like they also pre-build Dorito-shaped city for themselves over here. So this is the first major mistake of the game. I think a part which is very difficult to learn about Carcassonne is patience, like waiting for the right tile. Um, and sometimes it can take like the entire game. Mm. There was a lovely game in the 2021 World Team Online Carcassonne Championship that was the decider in the duel of Mujacello versus Mujacello versus Nocebo. It's just such an instructive game. I mean, such a pleasure to watch. It was streamed by Vladimir Kovalev. I still believe it is on their channel. The match was Latvia-Germany. So that's 2021 Carcassonne Championship. I would encourage everybody to watch that. And the idea was that there was a key tile, which, like, both opponents missed, but there was sort of this situation where it's like not necessarily clear whom it is beneficial to connect. And so what ended up happening is that none of the 3 tiles that were drawn by either of the players were actually put into the critical square where it belonged, because there was always the risk of the other opponent kind of like swooping in and taking over the feature at play. It was a fascinating game, but like my main thing is patience. So instead of this, just wait. Like, you can't afford to be doing stuff before, for example, you invade this invade the city from here. Well, actually, you know what Tito could do? Tito doesn't even have to go over here. As Tito, it's probably actually best to go over here. And then that's it. Then you're like in real dire straits. If they just cover up their city right now, you have no invasion squares. You can go over here and maybe create an invasion platform, but they're just gonna, in all likelihood, succeed with a regular Dorito. Then draw one of the 2 Doritos will go over here and then just like win big. So yeah, don't help your opponent. That's the kind of main part of the game. But we're now going to move on. Yeah, they do cover up. They do find out the move very wisely. And now you are in a position where you're forced to chase. First of all, even if they get this tile and never get one of these 2, it's already like a 15-point city, so it's already quite nice to have with 1 meeple majority, and it's threatening to become a 30-point completed city with an extra road that will be just game over instantly. So let's see what you do. Yes, you very rightfully so start attacking with your lower probabilities. And now it's another tricky situation for you. Like, if you ask me, what's the correct move for red right now? The answer is I don't know. But the reason I don't know is kind of I try to like not put myself in this position in the first place. So very often it's hard to give like Carcassonne advice. Like, if you make one mistake, sometimes you just end up in a position where all your options are bad. So if we do anything over here, like here are some disadvantages and advantages. Like the normal equity move when you have a Dorito city open with 1 meeple is just to place the city like this and start a new one. Because then you can get another city cap, finish this Dorito city, get a finished city cap, and get a finished city like this. Then you're gonna have like 12 points. But in this case, well, if you do that, I guess you could go over here, and that would start a little bit of a blocking attack on this square. But then you're foregoing the option of being able to draw a Dorito and actually connect over here. Another option is going over here, but this would be even worse because you would be allowing your opponent to place a meeple over here and invade from here. Or not even place a meeple, like they could just stick in a road and make it harder for you to connect. You could just ignore that, and this might be the best idea to just simply... Oh, you could actually go here. Yeah, maybe I would do this, start a city here, and then... But then it's also like, but then it's also problematic, you see, because... So, the advantages of this move. This move does not allow your opponent to take advantage of a triple city tile. Because let's say if they place a triple city like this, then you will be... Your meeple will waiting them here with open arms. If they turn the triple city like this, then this meeple will be waiting then with open arms. So they kind of have to wait. But then the problem is, what are you going to do if you have a Dorito? Sure, you could get a Dorito and like go over here, but then imagine your opponent gets a quadruple city tile, goes over here, and then this square is blocked. You have 3 meeples trapped versus 2 for fewer points that your opponent does, because they draw the Dorito tile here, connect over here for 15 points, meeple the road, and then just your game is completely over. So there are really no completely good options here. Now, what would I do? I think I would probably go over here still, just because it's nice to have maybe finish this 8-point city. And then later when I finish this city, I will have an option to either invade or block this square. So that would be my thought process. But let's see what you did. Yeah, you made this move, which again, like from an equity standpoint, it makes sense. It makes sense. But the problem is that you're giving opponent this platform, which is just too much. Like even if they, so for example, a very strong move for them. Oh, actually they have multiple strong moves. So they could, even right now, they could go over here with the road pointing down, meeple the monastery, and then you'll be very, very short on tiles that go into that square and allow you to connect. Because again, like 4 of the road Doritos are out, and if they stick the road, point the road downwards, well then that tile that you're hoping for is like either a road Dorito or a horse, a triple city with a road. But that's not all. They could like go over here for a 4-point monastery and control over your city, and also starting to create a reasonably sized big field. You know, because big fields benefit them since, well actually I'm not sure if big fields benefit them, maybe not, because they don't really have the long-term meeple advantage just yet, but that's an option. Also like pre-building this huge road, they could just start a monastery over here, so that's like a fantastic tile for him. But let's see what they do. Yeah, they do this, like it's very, very smart, and look at this. So that's why this move, I think we needed to be a bit more patient. We needed to first of all go over there, and then we need to finish the city and try to connect like this. I know it's a tall order, but like your options aren't great no matter what. Okay. Okay, this one's a mistake for sure. I'll tell you why. Too many players, very high, very level players, I think build their monasteries without sort of much thinking. It's almost like any tile that goes there is good enough, but not really, no. You want to, like, it's a bit awkward to build this with cities, because you will be later, like, you will be forced to continue building this monastery with cities, but then you will be forced to meeple that city later on, and the city will be in a relatively vulnerable position. But there's more problems like this. For example, you're also creating an alternative monastery spot for your opponent for 6 points, where when you have another monastery already, you actually don't want your you don't want for there to be other monastery spots on the board, so that the only possible option to have monasteries is place ones next to yours. So like ideally you want to be stacking like them like this. Another problem is that you kind of already need city tile over here, you need a city tile over here, and you have this threat over here. So there was a better move simply going over here, meepling the city. Like you really need to do something about this square soon enough. And for this square, you can wait. Like the tile that goes here should be either a curve, in which case you can, if you draw like a bunch of road tiles, you can build a road surrounding your monastery. Or honestly, like it could just be another monastery. That's also possible. I mean, ideally, of course, it's a curve, because the curve allows you so much flexibility. Like you can have a monastery over here and 2 straight lines, or you can have a road building all the way around your monastery like this. I mean, it's not like a bad move necessarily, but it sounds like something that maybe not entirely thought through. And just because you need city tiles in other places, I wouldn't put them next to your monastery at that stage. Yeah, So they do pick up that empty city piece, and you continue yours. They go over here. Now, and again, interesting situation with the monasteries. So you kind of want to be stacking, but then not really, because your opponents will be controlling your monasteries. But if you go over here for 7 points, your opponents actually will also be controlling two monasteries with 1 meeple. So for example, if you go over here as black, I would just leave the city alone and wait for red to do something regarding this city. Maybe yeah, basically as red, you just have to wait until you draw a cow, sorry, and like put it over here, breaking black city, which would then allow you to maybe draw another monastery and get your monastery meeple back. But I mean, still, it's good. You just take the 7 points, or yeah, the stacking. Stacking's perfectly fine. Okay, so they now connect, which is a problem for you, and now of course you have to spend your last meeple. It's not a choice. You have to reconnect, and your position still, it's not that horrible. Like, if you can just get a meeple back soon enough, which is possible with crossroads or a city cap over here, then you're gonna be just fine. They're trying to block, and then, I mean, what do you do? Like, honestly, I'm almost okay with going over here and allowing Tito to complete this city, just because how much I need those meeples back. I actually think going over here is not a mistake, because if they finish their city, you can still pick up from the city cap. There's some scenarios where with the new meeple you get to attack their city anyway. Like, the more I think about it, I would just do that. Like, I would just, yeah, and you go for that. I actually agree with you here. And they do end up finishing their city, but I mean, it is what it is. Now you can finish your city on the top. Okay. I would have preferred. I think I would have preferred finishing that city first. I think. Simply to have more meeples, and then use another tile to finish this, because you kind of realize that you're a bit behind. You need to take some more risks. Because the secret now they block you, and it's a real big problem for you, because like this meeple's completely blocked, and this meeple. So yeah, this meeple's completely blocked, and it will be in a losing battle against this monastery. And this meeple is close to being blocked. There's still 2 tiles that fit into that square. But as soon as you draw a Dorito tile that goes here, then black will go over here and block this square. So that can be a problem. Yeah, you do get... Okay, that's another mistake. I think it seems to be like an instinctive move. But I would ask you, like, what's the point of the 6-point field? I mean, you could start it and maybe develop it later, but why do you need to have you need to have meeples elsewhere? So, like, if you had an extra meeple, this would have been a good move, but I just don't think you can afford to be doing stuff like this at the moment. Well, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's not that bad, because like we could get a splitter tile and build up our field a little bit. But because this field has no. But because this field has so many attacking points, like anybody, your opponent can go over here and re-attack this field. So there's no urgency in claiming this field. For example, imagine that you go over here, and your opponent at some points goes over here, connects to the field. You both share the 6 points. Or the situation where you don't go over here, your meeple enjoys freedom for a few more moves. And only after a few more moves, your opponent, I don't know, goes over here, finishes the monastery, meeples a field, and then later you decide that you want the field, and then you go over here and you connect. The outcome is the same, that you both share a 6-point field. But in the process, if you are the side which had your meeple for free the longest, then you can do some things with those meeple while you have it in hand. So I think this move was just like not urgent enough. So yeah, so they get this, which is unfortunate, and you have to connect, which is also unfortunate. Yeah, they block you, which again, like, so this is, I think, already a lost game because it's a disaster. You have 4 trapped points versus 7. Well, versus 7 in the end, at the end of the day, which is bad enough. But you already have these 4 meeples over here. Now you have 2 meeples over your opponent's 1 meeple. So this is enough of a situation to give a game-winning advantage to your opponent. Yeah, it kind of comes down to that move of finishing this city earlier. Yeah, you get the meeple back, which makes sense, and I like that you leave the city cap empty. It says, so I'm not gonna lie, your opponent's getting some really good tile draws for being able to finish the monastery quickly, but you're getting a good tile draw as well. Yeah, this is a great way to score 4 points and expand your field, leaving in and city cap into it. So actually, suddenly you are like 10 points ahead. You're still absolutely in this game. Yeah, like it's not over. They get a monastery point. Now this move, we need to think about this, right? Because what does it really do? Well, it pre-builds a monastery spot. That's one of the things. But also, actually, maybe I don't like so much that this move, 1, 2, 3, 4, creates an invasion square for your opponent to join to this field. It's something that they might need in the future. And actually, if you get a city cap over here and score 4 points, you're going to have a 9-point field. You're going to be already in the lead. And if your opponent chooses to complete this city, this will be a 12-point field. So you actually want to keep this field as close as possible. And by not placing anything over here, you're ensuring that the only way an opponent... So imagine this tile is not here, right? The only way how your opponent can connect is placing something over here, dropping a farmer, but then you would always be able to place something else and block that square. But this move allows your opponent to take a curvy tile and place a farmer over here, which is not necessarily what you want to be doing. Let's actually double check what the tile counts are. Yeah, still 3 curves available, so plenty of room for your opponent to connect. I mean, like, it's not a bad move necessarily, but I think when you get a useless tile, something with which you can't score points, you can't block, you just need to find some sort of move which, first of all, doesn't hurt you, and second, gives you some marginal value. Sort of my options are twofold. I was kind of thinking about this move over here, trying to obstruct this road a little bit, but then there's the risk of actually your opponent getting loops and being able to complete an 8-point road like this, so it's not a good idea. So maybe what I would have done, I would have just gone over here, obstructing this city a little bit. Or actually another idea is just to go over here and to preserve this city for yourself, to prevent this city from getting blocked, because you want that city cap to be on your field. Although it kind of depends. Let's just have a look at the point count. We're 10 points ahead on scoreboard. We have 6 for the fields, that's 16. We have 4 for the cities versus 6 for the monasteries, that's 14. Your opponent has 4 for the road, that's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 for the other road. So you have 3 points ahead. Yeah, it's a very close game. Like, you're 3 points ahead, but your opponent gets this, and then they can get, like, yeah, it's a very, very close position. I think your opponent still has the slightly better position because they can get a meeple back, and the meeple back is worth more than 3 points. But on the other hand, you have already the control of the field, so that's quite nice. Okay, so they get the thing, and you see now your field is worth something, but you're still 2 points ahead. But now you need to worry about this square, and that's why I didn't like this move. You could go actually now here technically blocking that square, but that's not what you want to be doing with such a good tile. So instead you start a new city, which makes sense. They get a meeple back. Here I would probably start a monastery, I think it's actually still possible to finish it, maybe here, because you're still gonna get a meeple back from your city, in all likelihood. So let's see if you do that. Yeah, honestly, like I think it's worth a try. Because you also need to think, like, after your opponent finished the road, technically you're still 1 point ahead, but they have 2 meeples extra. Okay, like when you finish this, they're gonna have 1 meeple extra, but it still should be enough to outrun you. So we need to create something to well, to do. And I really like the idea of this monastery because it actually allows you to use road tiles productively. Like honestly, curve, straight line, curve. That's a very likely sequence. It's not that easy to block at all. And if they choose to block the monastery, this means that you will be, that will distract them from the city and you will be able to get this meeple back. Or, I don't know, if they block the monastery, you're still going to have 8 points. But at this point in the game, probably like 8 points for a meeple is not such a bad deal at all. So I think this meeple monastery deserved a meeple. After the game developed, I think it's actually not so bad to drop the farm. I think it's fairly decent. But then after you've dropped the farmer, now we need to take care that the control of the field remains yours. But anyway, so the idea of this, right, of not wanting to spend your meeple there, as long as you get this meeple back, in this position you actually don't really need more than 1 meeple, because you have a use for every possible tile. Well, almost for every possible tile. You can have road tiles that go here, and you can have city caps. Because you control the field, you can simply start dropping city caps into your field and then kind of leaving them up for grabs, you know, setting up the classic coin flip of, if your opponent takes the city cap, it's net 1 point for them because it's +4 for the city, -3 for the field. If you take the city, it's +7 for you because it's +4 for the city, +3 for the field. So you can do all those kind of things. I guess the tiles for which you wouldn't have a good use would be the Doritos and cities, but like I don't necessarily see a good use for them anyway. So I think that this monastery would probably a good idea. Now they hurt you. And finally you block access to the field, which makes sense. But then again, you created the access in the first place, so why do that? And it should hurt you quite a bit. That's outcome. But at least now, once you have your city sort of kind of blocked, but you have actually access to tiles like these. You could go over here, you can try and build up that city a little bit, and you could just try create a threat of completing this. And actually what very often happens that with the meeple on this monastery, if you just keep creating threats of finishing either your monastery or the city, like more often than not, you end up finishing one of them and scoring just enough points with the other one for it to be worth it to have your meeples blocked. Your opponent takes quick points, and you... Now it's a big strategic decision. So you're fortunate enough to draw the last Dorito tile, with which you could finish your shared city. This would give you 3 points for the field, and this would give your opponent 3 points for the road. So it would be sort of an even trade-off, except that you would get 2 more meeples, and your opponent would get 2 more meeples, and it would bring more variance into the game. Which, as the side who's a little bit behind, you probably want to do. But then, the main disadvantage is that you would be actually allowing your opponent to finish the road and getting the meeple back. So you would be helping your opponent a bit more than yourself. And also the fact that the points on the field... I was going to say they're not converted just yet, but now that I look at this field, it looks pretty much impenetrable. Okay, the points in the field are guaranteed, but you're probably still better off like going here and simply create the threat of finishing this city, as opposed to just making a move that gives your both sides the meeples. And I'll tell you why. So let's just do a point count again. We're at -2. Because of this, we're at +1. Because of the field, we are plus 10. Your opponent plus 14 because of these cities. Your opponent has 6 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 13. So I think you're like 1 point ahead in total or something. But your opponent's 2 meeples ahead. So your opponent should be sort of kind of winning this. But I would argue that just as valuable as the 2 meeples, I think you can squeeze out the victory with just dropping city caps into your field and meepling them. Because your field has growth potential, and you just need to win 1 coin flip to get extra 7 points. Like, you get a city cap, and if you win the coin flip for getting the second city cap, that's already like 7 points automatically to you without a meeple invested. Whereas the cost of the price of a meeple actually on this board is not that great. I think the best that your opponent can do is just start a counter field maybe somewhere here. Let's say they could drop a city cap here, meeple this, and get another city cap and score like 6 points for the field and 10 points and 4 points for the city. So, I mean, well, I guess they could have like 10 points for a meeple, yeah. Well, which is why, again, like, I think you were just so much more synergistic when it comes to the way you can use the remaining tiles with a meeple on this monarchy. But it is what it is now. So it's really up to you if you want to just finish this and add variance. I would probably prefer to create the threat of finishing this city rather than just adding variance to the game. Because if you think about this, like, yeah, sure, you're getting 2 meeples to yourself, but because your opponent is getting 2 extra meeples, even though those meeples are less valuable because your 4th and 5th meeple are less valuable than your 1st and 2nd meeple, you're still giving them meeples. Like, they're still going to drop them somewhere for at least 3 points. So it's not that you're necessarily getting an advantage whilst you want an advantage. And another reason why you actually want to be creating a threat for finishing the city, because even if the city gets blocked, you want your opponent to invest more tiles. Like, if they take a Dorito, I don't know, for example, you go here, and then they take a Dorito and they just slam it over here to put you into a coin flip for a starting tile next to the square. Then, like, but they spent a move, you got the 1 point. Like, this is just how you can milk your opponent and hope to achieve victory that way. Like, it's absolutely doable. So I think creating threats is more important, and which is why you did exactly that. I like your move. Actually, if I were you, I would have like gone over here to provoke my opponent to try and block this meeple, just so that they spend some more points. Because Tito can now go, like, at least Tito, what they should do now, they should go over here, start a city by themselves, and just like be in a race with you. And this is exactly what they do. Okay, you now have a interesting tile with a splitter. It's a very interesting decision as to what you can do with it. I can see 3 legit moves. One is equalizing your opponent's city. I think that's the weakest because you will be waiting for a Dorito and you will be just equalizing the points for a city which is not as threatening just yet. Like, maybe we can do something else with that later. Maybe you can block it or something. Another move would be to go all out on that city and just to go over here and start a city like this at the bottom for insurance, and to basically try finish this city with 2 Doritos and this with a city cap. Or, you know, just finish all these cities with a bunch of city caps. And that's also possible. And a third move is just to go over here, drop a city cap in your field in a safe place, and then just create these flips. So, well, the best case scenario is you take these 2 city caps and you score like 14 points, 7 plus 7. That would be just devastating for your opponent. Then you would probably win even if they finish that city. And in that particular situation, probably dropping the divider is my favorite move, because this also means that if your opponent gets a city cap, they can't really place it over here. They need to spend the city cap over here or over here, simply trying to clean off the city caps from your field. which from their perspective is pretty important. And that would delay the completion of your opponent's city at the top and increase the chance that they would just get stuck with 3 points themselves. Let's see what you did. And this is exactly what you did. Well done. So I think all the three moves were legit, but this was the best, and this was the second best. Yeah, they try to block or restrict the city cap, which makes perfect sense. And I think you should follow suit. Actually have this blocking move over here, which I'm pretty sure you're about to make, is very strong, because this in combination with the Dorito actually blocks their city completely. So we should try and pursue that. Well done. They go over here, adding a point to the road. Now again, we need to think really hard, because we really want to preserve the threat of completing the city. Like, we really want to do that. But the question is, what's the best way to do that? So an option is we could either go here and create a threat of Dorito city cap, or we could go here and try to finish the city with Dorito city cap. The advantage of this move is, first of all, to have the extra points, because if the city gets completed, the shielded tile will be worth 4 points as opposed to 2 points when you just take the 2-point road, which makes the threat greater. And then the advantage is that you kind of need fewer Doritos and more city caps. But if you leave it like this, you need more Doritos, 2 out of 3, and fewer city caps. If we leave it like this, so we have 2 Doritos and a splitter, there's a 50-50 chance, exactly, that we're going to draw 2 out of 3 Doritos. Well, and then it's probably a very good chance that we get at least one other city cap. But if we go over here, then we have a like 80 something% chance to draw one of the 3 tiles that go here, and then well, pretty much like any of combinations of the city caps that will do. So if finishing our city is the only concern, then placing this shielded tile like this is the best option. But one thing that we should take into account is that some city caps belong over here, because we really need the city caps with the road somewhere here. So then the caps which are really concerned here are like city caps with a field, of which there are 3. Another concern is this tile over here. What happens if you draw this? If you draw this, then you probably need to go over here. This would create an attacking platform. But then if you place this tile over here, the horse tile over here, and then you draw the giraffe's neck, you're going to place it over here, and then you'll be able to successfully continue building up your city without exposing a platform just yet. I know these are very, very difficult considerations. It's like a super, super close decision between the 2 options. Intuition tells me to go over here. Although, again, it has some other downsides. So, for example, if this were not a horse but a cow, so a triple city without road, then by going over here, you're not giving your opponent the option of scoring 2 points for a road and creating 2 attacking platforms against the city. Whereas given that there's still 4, actually multiple crossroads remaining in the deck, by going over here, you allow your opponent to score 2 points for a road and then create these attacking platforms. So it's very, very close. I don't mind either move, but I would be curious to, but I think this is sort of the level of depth that you actually want to consider, because very often with a different tile run out, there is actually a clear decision between these 2. So for example, in a tile situation where there are a lot of Doritos remaining, placing the cow here is a much, much better option. But in a tile where in a run out where there are more city caps remaining,
Yeah, it's okay. It's close. It's really not obvious. But I just want to I just want to see what you did. Yeah, you took the 2 points. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, let's see what happens. They take 2 points. Okay, no, they make a horrible mistake. Well, actually, I'm not sure if that's a horrible mistake. They chose to take 1 point and close down their road. And I think their idea is they just simply want to protect this road from attack because they figure that this is long enough. It's not that they, I mean, they're not delusional, I think. They know that they will not be able to finish this road because there are no tile that go into the square. But given that it is already worth like 9 points, it's possibly not a bad idea to cover it up and make sure that red cannot connect to it. Maybe, maybe. So now you have interesting options. You could go over here and block the square, or you could take 7 points in your field. I would say that passing up on 7 points is probably too much. You should probably not pass up on 7 points. And this one you did not pass up on 7 points. Well done. They decide to continue their city in a way which is pretty interesting because there's still plenty of tall. Well, there's actually two tiles left here. And this also allows you to start attacking, which you should probably do. Yep, that's fine. And now, of course, they need to defend. But this is where they need to find the right defense. The move that we need to make is they need to place with the Dorito facing outwards. And then you're actually going to be left with no blocking tiles. You're going to be left... Oh, I see. You're going to be left with just this and this, which fit into the square, but both of them protect the square because they create a hole shaped with this tile, with which are still remaining in the deck. Now that I look at this route, actually, I think this is the moment where if you have time, before deciding how to block, and if there are just 9 tiles remaining, you can try and go through all of them and see how many of them are remaining. Or if you don't have time, you need to go through like all the road tiles and see how many road tiles are remaining. And if you realize that there are fewer road tiles remaining, if you were to just turn that road the other way, then you would have a blocking platform with a greater chance, because look at all these city tiles, which, by the way, now that this city is slightly restricted in your field, you don't have that great of a use. All these city tiles are can be used to block this square. And if you were to turn this the other way, your opponent would not have a good defense. I mean, they could go something like this, they could make it in direct defense, but this would still allow you to draw something like this or like this to go over here and block the square permanently. So again, like it's a decent idea to try and block, but to actually realize what's tactically best, you really need to do the hard work of going through all of the tiles, or at least through some of the tiles, and figure out what's the highest blocking probability. And at the moment, let's see what they do. Yeah, so they make a mistake. It is a mistake because it allows you slightly more blocking opportunities. So it's a slight mistake, a light mistake, but it's still a mistake because they're also making the intuitive move. They're not counting all the tiles. Well, when they should. This move still allows you to draw the one and only blocking tile that fits into that square, start a new city, and make sure that this guy's blocked. So they're, I mean, not being precise as well. It is easy to us to say when we're like not in time pressure and we see all the remaining tiles, but I mean, ideally, like especially if you're gonna be going to the national championship, you wanna start thinking about these things. Yeah, you continue your city, which actually makes sense to me. they finish their city, and I think that's the game-winning feature for them. Then you probably can take 7 points. Yeah, doesn't hurt to take 7 points. Maybe your situation is not that bad now. Let's see. Yeah, they start a new field. And now we need to think really hard. Like, how do we want to win this game, if we can win this game? So, we're at -2. And we have 4 points for the city, we're at +2. We have 6 points for the city, we're at +8. They have 7 points for the monastery, we're at +1. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points for the road, we're at -8. And they have 3 points for the field, whereas we have 15 points for the field. Huh. So actually we're at +4. So we're doing just fine. Yeah, because like these 14 points from these two city caps were just huge. We're just humongous. So, with that in mind, I think you don't really need like that much extra to win. You just need to, because like this is a very dry board, so your opponent, the value of your opponent's meeples are not going to be that great. I'm kind of thinking that you could just clean off the city cap, go over here. That will give you 1 point. So you'll be ahead +5. If your opponent gets the city tile before you, that will put you down at -2. And then you would probably be losing, actually. And then what could you do? Well, I guess you could just always add 2 points here. But this would... Yeah, it's very interesting. We need to think about this a little bit harder. Because now we're in endgame mode and we need to start thinking about all the scenarios. So if we're at +4 and we take this city over here, we're at +5. If your opponent takes this city over here, we're suddenly at like +7. No, so this puts it at -2. And I think in that case we can actually still win if we go over here, attack the farm, and connect for 9 points. Yeah, I think that's the route to victory. Basically, we clean off this city cap, wait what happens to the second, because like we're still at +5, and maybe we could either get the second city cap ourselves, or we could block it. But if they get the second city cap, then we attack the field, and it could give us like just enough time to win this. Although it's really iffy. Actually, no, we would still be losing this. We would still be losing this. Because no, we wouldn't be losing this. It would be a super interesting situation. In this scenario where you take one city cap and your opponent takes the other, it's a situation where we're at -2 and with a -1 meeple. And if you go here and connect to the field, which is still possible, then this puts us at +7, but 2 meeples down. But the thing is, there's really not all that much that they can score with 2 meeples. So something like 4 points here plus 3 points for the field is sort of the maximum, and that is 7. If they draw, well, yes, that is 7 actually. And this is what would happen. But then you also go to ask, what are some alternatives? Because you can't drop any more squares into your field. And I can tell you what some alternatives are. An alternative win condition is trying to finish your city over here. But then the question is, what's more likely? If we go over here, you need 2 tiles. Okay, so, oh, now it's super interesting. So there's the giraffe's neck, there's this, and there are 3 city caps. And if you go over here, then you're gonna be needing 2 out of these 3 city caps in your last 2 moves. So actually all that means is that all that means is that you just need to not draw this and this. So this is 1 tile, by the way. It's like the dagger tile. So we have 5 tiles. The chance that you draw a city cap on your next turn is 60%, because that's 3 out of 5. 3 out of the 5 remaining tiles will be city caps. Then, on your last turn, the chance that you're going to draw a city cap after this would be 2 out of 4. Out of the 4 remaining tiles, it'll be 50%. So that would actually give you a 30% chance. 30% chance to finish that city. We need to ask ourselves, is finishing this city a game-winning feature? Let's think about this. We are now at +4. If we finish the city, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we finish the city at 6 points, then it's going to become 9, 18. So we're going to get 12 more points. We're going to be at +17. Together with the finished city. Well, actually +20, because we're going to drop a farmer as well. +20. Because we still have 1 meeple in hand. Can your opponent overcome 20 points? If we draw 2 out of the 3 remaining city caps, this means that your opponent will draw 1 of the city caps. It will have 7 points here. And they will have like 4 points here and like 3 points here, because they have meeples and they have quick point tiles, but they just don't have enough time to score. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting. So this would give them 14 points versus your 20, which means that if you just commit to the city, you have a 30% chance of winning the game. Well, it's actually a bit less than 30, because your opponent could get a curve, get a crossroads, and drop a farmer here, in which case you would need to draw this particular tile so that they don't manage to connect to your field. Yeah, because we need to remember that a field connection is always an opportunity for them to make something like resembling a comeback. So yeah, but then again, is a 30% good enough for you to win? The answer could be maybe. Let's look at the alternative approach. So we go over here, we put ourselves +5, and then what happens? If they draw a city cap, you're at -2. And then you connect, you're at +7. Then it's basically a draw. But it's a draw like 33% of the time, because you will need to draw the one and only tile that allows you to connect to the field. So this situation, you get a city cap, they get a city cap, you get something here, and then you need this particular tile to connect to the field from one of the 2 sides. And there's not really a better option for you. So that's like 33% for a draw, but this is if they get the city cap in the first place. Because if they don't, They could just take 3 points for a road or something, which would put you at +2. Yeah, which would put you at +2. In which case, on your next move, you'll be able to either draw, like, you'll be able to maybe block this. But then they will have 2 meeples versus 1, and then they will just outrun you. So then you really only win if you manage to clean up this city cap. 3, but then I get 5. Yeah, it's gonna be very close. Like, honestly, it seems to me, just by looking at those tiles, that probably your better bet is to actually bet on the 30% for this city. Because, well, it's not like 30%, it's maybe like 25, because your opponent has an off chance of blocking it, and your opponent has an off chance of connecting to your field, but maybe committing to this city is best. Intuitively, I would actually make this move and just try to outrun my opponent. But it's a very, very difficult decision, which is why probably if you're playing a timed game, you want to have loads of time remaining. Like, you want to have at least 5 full minutes for the end game, and probably then some. And then you will need to have full awareness of the tiles if you want to kind of, I know the points, if you want to decide whether it's better to commit to the city or to go over here. And honestly, like, I still don't know the answer, because I can't run through all the possibilities. And probably in a real game, I might just intuitively play this move, because cleaning off a city cap is so intuitive. Yeah, but you went for, oh, no. Oh, you went for the city, but from the wrong side. You blocked yourself. You needed to place this tile anywhere but there. On the middle or on the left were both real possibilities. Because now you don't allow yourself the opportunity to use this city cap. Because this was the only square where this city cap can go. So now it's way less than 30%. It's, yeah. They go over here, and look at this. Are we going to see that? So you go here. Okay, well, you didn't get the tile anyway, but yeah, of course, it's quite painful that they got to complete this, and well, I mean, there's really not that much you can do. You get 3 points. Oof, that's rough. And then they also get 3 points. And the point difference turns out to, oh, they get 4 points for the road. Okay, that makes sense. So the point difference turns out to actually be not that great. So it turns out that if you were to go over here, you would have scored just as much as this, but then they would not have had the extra 9 points for the field. Yeah, I believe they still would have won if they were to place this tile, go over here. So they would have 9 points less, and then you would go over here to clean off this city cap, and then you would have still the same amounts of points. Actually, no, I think in that scenario you'll be like winning by 1 point. Well, no. But then they would go over here, and then they would take this. Yeah, no, I think you would actually win. So it's a very, very interesting endgame. So it turns out actually the simple move of scoring the 4 points here would have won you this game in this particular instance, but like 1 point of something, but with this particular run out. In another run out, this would be losing. I think the important part is that you're just aware of the 2 different win conditions, and you just like do your best trying to assess which one gives you the higher chance of winning. I'm not exactly sure which one that is. In the tournament game, I'm pretty sure I would have gone for this one simply because it's the more natural move, and also because many of the scenarios where you come out on top are ties, and since you are the second player, a tie is good for you because it's equivalent to a victory. In an arena game, I guess a tie is a tie. Well, not until now. Now they actually made the ties. They changed the tie breaks on Board Game Arena, which I'm happy about. So anyway, let's just kind of run through that game, do a recap. I think overall, like this game you played, the opening really, really well. All the points which give you the highest expected value, kind of ambitious moves. Then you made, I think, one major mistake which cost you a lot in this game, and it forced you into a very uncomfortable position. And that was this mistake of connecting your cities, because it forced you to like go over here, and this is the reason why I lost those two meeples. So this all things, like the loss of these two meeples, is related to this because you created the city, you were forced to chase it around, and you chasing it around created the blocking platform from your opponent. This farmer turns out actually really, really nice. So yeah, maybe it was actually a good idea to drop that farmer. I actually kind of like it. I really like it. Post factum, and the way you manage to preserve that 15-point field with one meeple, dropping this, kind of developing. But I noticed that your field play is generally very, very strong. There was a bit of a mishap creating a potential connection platform, but then you very wisely closed that down, so that was very nice. And just approaching the end game, it was very tricky to figure out the win condition. Actually, no, there was one thing which was a tactical error, like the block over here. But again, it just requires to know all the tiles, what it would take to block your opponent. And even after all that, you came pretty close. I would say, like, overall, a very, very well played game. But to get to that highest level and play an opponent like this who's in the national team, you just sometimes like need to be like precise from start to finish. It's a very, very complicated game. But yeah, well, hopefully that was somewhat instructive, and hopefully you managed to defeat them next time. Alrighty, third game. We are going to go to it in just like 1 minute because I need to replenish my supply of hot beverages.
Alrighty, and our third game was sent to us by the player with the screen name Lord Trooper from Argentina, and here again we're in the second position. I think this was from, correct me if I'm wrong, this was like from some important tournament, so it's not a casual game. And actually, let's just have a look. Let's just have a look real quick. Yeah, this was no. Let's duplicate. And I think this is the game that. No, don't look at that. Don't look at that. Don't look at the result. Yeah, I should have thought about this. Yeah, I think this is a qualifier for the national championship. So, an important tournament, serious game. And here again, we're in the second position. You see how hard it is to play in the second position. Here, actually, this is the first move which I would have played differently. Here, I prefer placing the city cap not here, but over here. And this is, no, actually I have quite a strong opinion about this. Yeah, so, alright, first mistake of the game. Second move. You see how complicated this game is. So, the main idea is that if we place this tile over here, then there are fewer attacking opportunities for your opponent, because at the moment they can attack with a Dorito with a road, and they can attack with a triple city with a road, which is like even worse. But if you place this city cap over here, they can only attack with a starting tile, and they probably wouldn't, because they can need a starting tile elsewhere. And if they would, that wouldn't be such a tragedy, because the starting tile is a valuable tile. You may be thinking that you don't want to be blocked, like with a Dorito or with a triple city tile, but actually, if I go over here, and if my opponent gets a Dorito, I am begging, like I really hope that they go over here and try to block me, because that would be a bad move. Because there's still 3 starting tiles that fit into that square, and more often than not, I do get my meeple out. So at this stage, it's just better to kind of give yourself a high chance of completing an 8-point city rather than worry about the protection of meeples. So it is a bit better to place the city cap on the other side. And yeah, actually look at this. So well, it didn't change much necessarily, because now you're sort of in the same position when it comes to vulnerability of meeples. But okay. Now you get to start a new road. I like that move. They quickly get to finish your city, but I agree with the placement with your road. Even though you're potentially giving them the road, just the value, the long-term value that you get by not allowing him to have a giraffe's neck, by not allowing them to have the vertical splitter, it's just outweighs that. So I agree with your move. And the star is okay. We're even up 1 point. On the board somehow after this. A bit of a dubious move from them, but okay. You have 2 options here. You could go here, which I probably wouldn't do just yet, because with the 2 starting tiles, that's like it's a bit vulnerable. Also, don't like really creating this hole over here, but that's a reasonable move. And of course, this is an option. This is an option. One of these 2 moves is probably best. I would actually probably go for this, which is what you do. Give yourself an advantage in a mini battle, and then you can just proceed, continue a road normally. They continue their own road, and now something instructive. Well, let's see what you do. I actually kind of forgot what you did. The move that I think is best here is not this, because after your road is here, the road is secure enough, like it doesn't need any further development. You just probably want to get that meeple back, and that's it. It's better to go over here and start another road just to take advantage of these 2 extra points over here. And there are plenty of road ends remaining. You will get your meeples back. There's nothing to worry about, and you don't do that. So I think it's a bit like it's too shy. Take that one. Take a second road. Again, like your move is fine, but it's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But you want to make the best move possible. You want to like grab that extra value, and sometimes it can lead to bad consequences. But here it is safe enough to do so. Now your opponent starts a monastery, which makes sense. And here again, don't bother with this road. Just take the 3 points first, then finish the other road.
because your opponent, if they get to road neck, they're gonna go over here first. So I think it's just way too conservative. Okay, now, believe it or not, I think comes a pivotal moment in the game. Here, you're going to make the first, and I think actually probably was going to end up the game decisive mistake. Here you have a move which is really strong, not easy to see. The best move, I believe, is to go here and meeple this city. So that would be an instance of the Ukrainian technique, and it is extremely annoying for red. First of all, you can see that red has an advantage with their monasteries and their little piece of road. So by going over here, at least you're going to have a meeple advantage, and you will make it hard for red to finish these monasteries, because if they finish the monastery, they will force to add a point to you, and then you can like build your city, and then you can benefit from them investing into your city. And actually, probably they should. Like, even if they get a city cap or something, they can go over here, meeple the farmer, but then you can finish the city, meeple a farm, and then everything is tied again. But another important part of this move is you're killing off another monastery spot. Because, okay, now they have an advantage. If they get another monastery over here, that's almost game over. It's just too much of a threat. So it's something that needs to be addressed really quickly. It's not that easy to see, but let's say if you choose some other alternative moves, I don't know, like going here and dropping a farmer is an option, like this. No, honestly, no. Like this is just the best move. Like anything else, if you just happen not to know that, it is subpar comparison to this. Yeah, you could just start a new city, or you could, I don't know, go over here, start a field. But if you're gonna make any alternative move which is not this, again, it's a hard find. Then at least make sure to drop a farmer, because typically if your opponent gets monasteries, the way you compensate that is you create something in return. Like either you complete a middle-sized city, or you start to ruin, or most often, like 90% of the time in these imbalances games, you get a stronghold on the field. And so you have your field, your opponent has monasteries, and the game was close, and somebody wins with like a 2-point difference. So that would be your typical imbalance. So just be sure to be first on the field, especially there's a lot of green squares, and there's this little piece that will make it likely that the field grows. But instead you do this and not drop a meeple. So this is a move which, well, okay, like everybody has their bad days, but that is a massive mistake, of course. So first of all, adding a point to your opponent, helping them out. Second, building up a monastery platform for them, so actually helping them out, creating a better space and more points for another monastery. Third one, not meepling anything. Like, the option of meepling the city was okay, because with one meeple you'll be controlling 2 meeples of your opponent. And then they would have less incentive to place a tile over here so that they don't continue your city. Or you could at least meeple the field, because the threat is that, I mean, they could meeple the field at some point. So so it's like a move which just helps your opponents on several levels, and generally don't do that. Also, we see that in the first game we kind of had a same issue with one of our protagonists not knowing exactly where this Dorito goes, and they just ended up putting it somewhere which without a meeple. But you don't want to be doing that with six meeples in your hand. Yeah, so all you just helped your opponent with the monastery and with the city, and like, where do we go from here? Now I agree with you. Now we should block, but again, we should do that with a farmer, because I guarantee you, like, if your opponent draws a curve, then they're going here and they're dropping a farmer. This field has more than enough green squares to be justified. But they don't draw a defense, and they continue their city, and we don't draw a defense, so we take a road, which, by the way, we could have taken earlier in the first place. We could have taken it earlier, and look what would have happened. we would have had this tile over here, and now this tile we would have had over here instead, and then we would have had a meeple on this city cap pointing outwards. And you tell me which outcome is best. So it's the exact same tiles you draw, same tile run out, except in the one outcome there's an empty city cap lying around, and in the other outcome you have a safe city cap pointing outwards. So it's just simply to point out that sometimes like meeple in the second road is a better outcome. And look at this. They are not going to pass up on this field. They are completely fine with that. And so this, I think, is the main missed opportunity of this game. You allow them to have their cake and eat it too. You allow them to have the monasteries, get the points for the monasteries, but not bear the consequences of the temporary meeple disadvantages that building up the monasteries brings. Because like you want to be the first on the field, but instead, where are your 6 meeples going? So now, of course, I mean, you should go over here, start a new monastery for 6 points, pre-build the road, but instead you go here, which I think is just too risky. I mean, normally, I love doing stuff like this, and I would do that, but if you think about this, are 5 points really worth a meeple? Why am I saying 5? Well, because if you play the tile over here, it is between taking 3 points and having your opponent potentially blocked for 8 points. And your opponent here, your meeple gets blocked here so often, like at least 80% of the time. Just because it's so easy for your opponent to deal with a road tile. So I wouldn't necessarily do that. And another thing is like there is a better spot on the board. It's this one. It's just 2 fewer points, but it has additional value. It has an additional monastery spot, and it also doesn't expand my opponent's field. So I think that was another just simply tactical misstep. But your opponent, well, actually, if I were them, I would have just meepled the monastery anyway. But okay, it's their problem. So 8 points for us. Now we start cleaning off stuff. They block you, very successfully so, adding a city cap to their field. And now this meeple for 8 points, like, was it really worth it? Because again, this could have been here, and you would have had the same points, but just a better chance of getting a meeple back. And you would have now had 3 extra points from this road as well. So I think it's going to be just this really early game, these crucial decisions that I wanted to look at. And everything else, we're just going to see the consequences of that. So here, you make a really good move, anticipating the finisher of their road, because they will be forced to finish your road by finishing these monasteries, and at least you're going to get 4 points compensation. And actually, like, you'll still have chances in this game. They get 4 points for a city, but you're going to start a new city at the bottom yourself, and you're threatening to finish that city and drop a farmer, which is why they don't let you do that, which is why you renew the threat, which is why they try to prevent you from doing that, and also at the same time scoring 3 points. But luckily you can also do a similar thing. You can do 2 points and bring yourself like 1 tile closer to completing the city. So now they are in an unenviable situation, and they make, I don't know, well, it has to be like, so this is a move, if I were live streaming it, it would leave me speechless. Because they are helping you so much. They're giving you 5 points. And they're putting you in a good position to finish the city. Like, if they want to break the city, like, at least place this tile over here somewhere. That creates a vulnerability in this square. Because now, well, now you can actually really ramp up. So you can do a bunch of things. You can seriously consider going over here and self-invading and just punishing them hard. Dorito, 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 or like Dorito triple city, Dorito city cap. Some sort of pattern which allows you to finish this city quickly. Like, I would seriously consider that. Another move is to go here and drop a farmer, but that's a bit weaker because then he's going to have 2 attacking platforms against your city, so that's not great. Another move which I would consider is going over here, dropping a farmer, trying to connect to the field through here, and having a threat of blocking their city. So I would really be debating between that farmer move and just pressing my meeple majority, at least the temporary meeple majority, and the self-invasion. Because sometimes like self-invasion is a great way to punish your opponent from being overly confident, and like this move I really didn't expect from well, sometimes it can happen, but I know that Ale is like a very, very strong player, but everybody has their bad days, and it's just such a gift to you. You instead try to finish your city like this, which I sort of get, but then yeah, I get the idea. It's trying to obstruct, trying to eliminate this connection platform over here. I mean, this connection platform over here. There's still a connection platform over here, but there's just one. So if you could only get a Dorito, then you would cover up. So this one I can also understand. I prefer either the self-invasion or this, just because we can do this with other tiles. We can, like, I'd rather just do everything with Doritos if I can, and there are still 5 of those. So your opponent continues, and now you continue, and I agree. Your opponents can maybe block you, but this block will only be a 50% block, and your city has already enough points that it will be quite annoying. They drop a second farmer, which kind of prevents us from attacking the field in the future. So let's try to score points in other ways. So I think our winning plan for the game will be trying to finish this city, and I think this should be enough. This should outrun the field, because it's like at least 20-something points. We're going to get a meeple back, maybe we're going to get some quick points elsewhere, and so on. The monastery, I would meeple. I don't like this move. I'll tell you why. Well, first of all, because like you can afford to meeple monastery, because the thing is like your opponent is occupied blocking the city, which means that they will leave you alone. You will get your 9 points in meeple back, like the vast majority of the time. Also, you don't have use for straight. Well, I guess you have some use for straight roads, like here, trying to create those blocking attacks in your possessions, but you don't have. But you don't have a use of roads. For example, if you go over here, you could go road, like you could build stuff with roads as well. And then another problem with this move is that it expands your opponent's field. It's actually makes sure this city piece a bit more vulnerable, because triple city plus Dorito, bam, blocked. That's an opportunity that you've created. You've given your opponent more green squares. It was harder to drop a divider here. Now it's more possible to drop a divider here. And your opponent can get a city cap, and then a city cap, and then they could get a Dorito and block your meeple over here again. But then you're also protecting this square, because your opponents can draw one of the 2 dividers, get their meeple back, get 4 points for the city, 3 points for the field, and leave this meeple stranded alone. So it's a move which actually helps your opponent way, way more than it helps you. And I can tell you how it helps you. It helps you a little bit, because you're sort of kind of temporarily separating this meeple from this meeple, and you're making your win condition slightly more flexible. This means that you don't have to go full in the mode of imbalance. You can actually maybe attack your opponent's meeple with opponent's field with 1 meeple, and then like leave this other meeple stranded. So that's sort of kind of a possibility, but it was way better to wait for a different tile, such as a triple city, to go over here and create a much better blocking chance against the square that would also hurt this square, that would also hurt this field. And also, speaking of this field, this should have been your meeple here in the first place. So like lots of problems for just one move. And yeah, so they take 4 points, and now I believe you defend, and here I agree with you. So our situation is pretty difficult, because our opponent has an extra monastery, which we're going to get back. They have control of the field, they have some threats, and I kind of like what you did, and I would now consider either meepling the city cap or dropping a farmer. Both are really fine, because then we're going to have our little counter field to ourselves here. Your opponents can have their own field, which is currently worth, let's say, just 9 points. It's going to be worth 12 when we finish our city, and we will probably be just fine. Yeah, mapling the city cap's also fine. They take 2 points. You continue your city, and like your situation is really not that bad. Yeah, if you just get this tile, then you're still probably more likely than not to win. So they expand their own field. So you see, they wait. What do they do? Yeah, I think they should expand their field. Ah, no, that's better, of course. Yeah, that's a very smart move. They're setting up a blocking attack against your city. They hope to draw a Dorito, and then given the fact that there's only one starting tile remaining, they will make you choose between this square and this square. I mean, of course, you can choose this square, but this meeple will be stranded forever. So that's why you did that. And of course, they're trying to attack over here. So that's very smart. And you can't do anything about that. Well, actually, I think you're better off scoring 2 points. Like, I mean, it's fine, but why not just use a normal road tile to do stuff like this? And also, like, after they place this tile over here, their city is not such a big threat because regardless of what they do over here, if they take a city cap here first, then you'll be able to swoop in the last minute and invade. If they take the city cap here first, then you'll be able to plug in a road and block. So you don't necessarily need that platform just yet. You're much better off just scoring 2 points and seeing what happens. They continue over here, and actually I disagree with them. I think that they should go over here and they should complete the block. Like, their choices between depriving you of a full meeple and 2 points. And they should have absolutely blocked you, but they didn't. So we should be very happy about that. We go here, which I can understand because it's trying to block this square, but this also makes your little well, maybe that's actually that could be reasonable. Okay. They get quick points, and you get to continue your city, so that's all nice. They get a meeple back, and another meeple back, but they also give you a meeple back. And now we need to have a look at the game situation. So -20, that's all not that great, but what happens if we get this tile over here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 24 points for the city. So it will put this tile will put us at +4. They will have control on the field for 12, but maybe if we just finish these guys and drop a farmer, we'll be fine. Like, if we finish the city, it will still be a balanced game. But it seems to me that our plans should be predicated on us getting this tile. I don't see us necessarily winning without it. You continue to complete the block, which makes sense, and they... I don't know. That's a move, like, they just keep giving you chances. The reason why it's not a good move is because they are ahead, and they are allowing you to get a Dorito and get a meeple back for 10 points, and then of course they're gonna drop a farmer here. I mean, you're gonna drop a farmer here, and you're gonna connect. So they're much better off just neutralizing the threat of you finishing the city, and by just simply joining the city, like playing small ball. So your opponent is erring as well. So maybe they have a chance in this. Here, you have a couple of strong moves. You could go here in theory, and then actually you might get this tile, and if you just go Dorito plus this, you can build like a 16 to 18 points city with an otherwise relative useless tile of just 2 meeples. And the reason why you might want to do that is simply to prevent your opponent from drawing a city cap, taking 4 points, creating a platform to block you, and maybe perhaps blocking you. If you go over here, of course your opponent could draw something like the one remaining cow and place it over here and block this square, but given that there are actually few blocking tiles, well, let me just show you. Let me just show you so that we're extra sure. Yeah, there we go. So there are very few city plus road tiles. Okay, there's this one. This is actually the one that you have in hand, so this doesn't count. There's this one, which gives them, well, which, first of all, they have to draw, and second, after this move, well, if they draw it, then they need to place it over here, and then in that case, you actually might end up finishing this city, and this blocked people will end up being worth it. And there's this one, but then if they draw this, they lose anyway. And there's this one, but then if they draw this, they will, I guess they will have to finish their 6-point city, which is not great for them, and they also sacrifice whatever this tile could have given them elsewhere. So I think in this particular situation, with this particular tile run out, this option could be interesting. And another option, which I think is okay, which is sort of the more classical one, is this move over here. So that you block the square, you don't allow them to draw a divider, and you also indirectly continue your little ruin over here. So that's, it's really between these two moves. Let's see which one you did. And you played this one, which I have profound disagreements with. Because the reason is, like, why are you helping them? You're helping them protect that square. This square needs to be blocked. Because if they get this tile, well, it's not very often that you get to finish this city. Like, you get to finish it, I guess, with 2 Doritos, but then what are the chances of you drawing 2 Doritos? And I get the idea that you maybe wanted to get 1 point, but the move that I suggested over here, it also gives you 1 point. And then some. Because it allows you to kind of expand your city with a cow, for example. But now, you can't really expand your city with a cow, because if you place your cow over here, your opponent draws a divider, and they can now safely separate, leaving you stranded with a ruin for 4 points, and they just keep building up their field. So that was the main issue about it. But okay, they secure the field connection and create a platform against your city, and there's nothing much that we can do about it. But we can take points. But again, you block yourself for some reason, and they can still separate from you. Like, why not just take 2 points? Or if you're gonna do that, then at least turn it the other way, so that if they take a separator tile, then at the very least you're able to threaten finishing the city again. Yeah, so I think this could have been just like a misreading of the situation. They get the tile again. They get the 4 points, which was predictable. And then we, of course, have to go here, and they go here, which is interesting. Then, I mean, what can we do? Oh, what can we do? Yeah. Oh, farmer. Brilliant, brilliant. That's so good. The reason why it's so good, because, like, this is a 9-point field. We will need to connect to it. And we know that we are relying on this tile in order to win. But if we get this tile, we might as well get the extra benefit of connecting to the farmer. This is very efficient. Moreover, if we're quick enough to draw one of these tiles, we actually get to go over here, drop a farmer, take a 12 point for our city, and overrun a 12-point field with 2 versus 1 legal majority. But very anticlimactically and very quickly, they draw this tile over here, and I think at this point you're lost. So it was still a very, very noble effort with that city, and your opponent definitely made quite a few mistakes, sort of allowing this sort of opportunity. But I think with a couple of imprecisions later, the problem that I see for you in this position, even before they draw this, I think that because of some other gains that they have, there are many scenarios where they can actually withstand this tile. But first of all, they have a 24-point scoreboard lead. The city will give you the... well, actually, this will give you 24 points, so that will be roughly equal. But then they have a field, which outwins them on. That's interesting. Yeah, I guess it's still gonna be equal after them. But my point that I wanted to tell about this game is that once you've decided that the only way you can win the game is a coin flip, then what you need to work on the rest of the game is just to make sure, well, this coin flip better give me a win. Like, I don't want to give my opponent opportunities in other parts of the field to compensate for it. So here's what I mean. So for example, if you draw this tile, but your opponent draws the divider over here, gets the extra meeple back and the extra field points without giving anything to you, then they might still win. They might still outrun you. So you definitely want to, or like, let me put this differently. If there's a particular tile which you really need, you want to prevent your opponent from having a different high impact tile. Because then your win condition will be not only drawing your tile that you need, but also that of your opponent. Yeah, well, it's now kind of unfortunate that they draw the coin flip for this. Then they definitely outdraw you quite a bit in this game. Like, now it's just, yeah, what else? I mean, what can we do? Oh, and of course they draw the splitter. That one's on you. That one's on you. That one was not necessary. Yeah, and now it's just a matter of seeing the tiles until the end. Yeah, that's just rubbing it in with that extra city invasion. Because they just had so many meeples that had to use them. So I think it was actually reasonably close towards the end. We were flipping for that tile, and I think you did an excellent job setting up that tile. It's just, I think it didn't need to come to that. So your draws at the start of the game were actually really good. They did have the monastery, but you had the tools to prevent the monasteries, and I think you could have meepled like this monastery spot differently, and could have dropped a farmer and so on. So there's many things that could have been done to actually not put yourselves at a disadvantage. You did one of those things, so like this compensation 4-point roll was excellent, that sort of slowed down your opponent a little bit. The idea of setting up this coin flip tile was great. You know, building up here, that was also kind of very nice. Here, I think there was a very interesting tactical idea, which I still stand by, of getting this tile and actually creating another sort of weird looking city like this. But it only works in this particular tile runout, and it's not a motif that you're going to see that often. So 27-point difference, as we can see, but actually the game was much closer than it seems to be. And I think, unlike most losses with 27 points, which looks like, you know, it's one of those games where just your opponent draws a lot and you know, and then they win, they can do nothing about this. This one did feel winnable. So I'm happy that you got second place, though. I do believe that second place is enough for something, for some sort of advancement in the qualification rounds. And you did something which is like we saw a few times already in today's stream, that parts of the game you played really well. Is just a couple of crucial moments from which it goes south, and for you, these crucial moments happen to be at the start of the game. Even though your opponent drew the monastery as well, well, first of all, just knowing that Ukrainian technique move and how to follow it up is one thing, but another thing is you know, being first on the field in case of imbalance, and just these small things that add up to a critical point that we need to just rely on one tile for our game. So yeah, anyway, thank you so much for sharing. Hopefully that was somewhat instructive, and good luck in your nationals. So I hope you show them all next time. And that's gonna be it. There was a relatively quick stream by recent standards, so my last analysis stream was 4 hours. It was only less than 2.5 hours, which I think is more like it's more close to how it's supposed to be. I'm not gonna be streaming much in the next few weeks. I will be on a work trip, and then after that, I will be on a Carcassonne trip across different cities in Brazil, playing and teaching Carcassonne to the community there. But in mid-August, I will be back for a few streams. But there's also going to be the Mind Sports Olympiad, which I'm participating in London in the end of August. So probably not much channel activity. So I'll see y'all back in August. Hope you're having a great summer. And don't forget to meeple the like button if you like this video. Helps with the algorithm a lot. Oh, that's unfortunate because I didn't see your messages about the low mic. Yeah, I could have fixed that. Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry about that. Hi, Napalm, hi, Void, Helene, hi, P-chan. Yeah, why did I not see? So weird. I actually just don't see these messages. Because I have like the YouTube stream opened elsewhere. Well, anyway, hopefully even with the low mic sound, we were able to pick something up. Anyway, hopefully fewer technical mishaps in August. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.